One of the most exciting things about this week and having Renewable Cities Conference here was the ability to have a leading conversation with vanguard cities.
I'm Brian Hansen. I'm from the City of Copenhagen, where I head our Department of City Development.
Hi, I'm Sadhu Johnston. I'm the Deputy City Manager with the City of Vancouver, and I help to oversee our Greenest City Action Plan. And I'm also the chair of the Urban Sustainability Directors Network, which is this group of about 130 cities here in North America, city staff in our types of positions, working together to help green our cities.
Well, we set out like 2005 as our baseline, and we're down 31%. That's the short story. Maybe due to a couple of warm winters and stuff like that, but it's going in the right direction.
Yeah. Well, we certainly try to learn and borrow as much as we can from Copenhagen. We've got the target for a 33% reduction by 2020 from our 2007 levels. And our longer-term target is to be 100% renewable energy city. And our council just directed us to do that, and so now our staff are putting together our plan, which is one of the reasons we're getting so much out of the Renewable Cities Conference and the conversations through the Carbon Neutral Cities Alliance, and even with your staff, the opportunity to really see what the leading opportunities are. It's important for our competitive advantage as a community, and important as a global leader to demonstrate that cities can do this. So you've really led the charge in bike infrastructure, getting people out of cars, district energy, renewable energy. What would you say are the key elements to get it? I think you've got a goal of getting to carbon neutral by 2025, is that right?
Yes, we do. Of course, the main sources for us is our heating, our energy production, which is coal-based, and we're changing to biomass. And then also energy efficiency in buildings and so on is really the big efforts for us. It's been a long effort, but yeah, we have impressive numbers in the people who cycle, and we pride ourselves in demonstrating that cycling actually is a real mode of transport and not just for fun. I rode on Wednesday. I rode a bike around Vancouver on some of your new bicycle tracks and so on.
What do you think?
That's nice. It's really nice, and it's everybody's saying it's a hilly city. I mean, to me, it was a nice bike ride around, and it was great. And you have the separated bike lanes across the middle of the city, and to me it's a very tight grid of roads, especially here in the inner city, and I can see that the discussion, but I mean, in terms of traffic flows, it should be possible to take out some capacity on some of the roads. There's so many of them.
Well, we have nice clean electricity, and so a lot of our public transit system runs on that, which is great. The trains and you see the trolley buses, and so that's last year was 98% carbon-free electricity. So that's a great resource. It also means that we really need to prioritize to get to carbon neutral, to 100% renewable energy. We really need to focus on the natural gas system, which is how are we heating all these buildings? And as you know, in the winter we got a fair amount of heating load, and so we're looking at, I think we can see the path to getting the new buildings really to be carbon neutral. The challenge is all these existing buildings, and how do we really get them converted? And it seems like many of our cities are asking that question. You got the existing buildings, and if you're gonna get to 100% renewable energy by 2025, how do we get those existing buildings? And it seems to me, you've got a benefit, which is that they're all connected to district energy systems, so you need to convert 3 or 4 plants, versus here we've got hundreds of buildings that aren't connected, and so we need to figure out either we get them connected to a low carbon heating source, or we do retrofits in the building, or we provide green gas or biogas for the natural gas that they are continuing to use. One of the things that when I was in Copenhagen, I toured one of the waste to energy facilities. And here in the Lower Mainland in Vancouver, there's one waste-to-energy facility that was built a long time ago and continues to run. And then there's been a proposal or an effort to build an additional one. So what's your sense of kind of the role that waste-to-energy would play in a future kind of zero-carbon Copenhagen?
As you said, we have these kind of plans, and we also have some very recent investments in that kind of infrastructure. So we stuck with them for a number of years so far. Yeah. So it's all about the efficiency, and it's all about plastic. You know, getting the plastic out of the renewables. That's our main challenge. Get it out, and when you got it out, use it for something useful. Because I think the world needs really efficient reuse of plastic. It's kind of the things that we need some innovation on.
We've been prioritizing getting organics out of the waste stream.
Is it working?
Yeah, well, we initially gave people a green bin behind their house and said, put your organics in here. But we picked it up every other week.
Yes.
We picked up the garbage every week. So people kind of say, oh, we got this green bin, and maybe I'll put a little bit of stuff in there. And then a year and a half ago, we made the switch. We changed the garbage pickup to every 2 weeks.
Okay.
And we made the organics bin pick up once a week.
Okay.
So now if someone throws a chicken carcass in their organics bin, it's going to sit behind their house for 2 weeks. And that doesn't go over very well. And so we saw a 40% decrease in the trash that we pick up within 3 months of making that switch in the collection. So people already had the infrastructure, but we just made it more convenient. We kind of took we took a trick from your playbook where we said, well, let's just make it more convenient for people to do the thing we want them to do. What would you say is Copenhagen's greatest challenge to achieving your renewable energy targets?
Well, I would say retrofitting buildings is one of them, and then the waste which we talked about. You know, getting plastic out of the renewables, because we burn waste for energy, for heating. Then I think in the longer perspective, we used to have power plants that produced electricity, and then we had the surplus heat. We have more and more wind power, probably also more and more solar power. So now it's not like just a surplus from electricity production. Now heating is going to be energy in itself, and we need to look into the future how do we most efficiently produce heat? Because we used to see how to most efficiently produce electricity and then use the heat. So that's kind of a long-term challenge to see what are the new sources of heat, geothermal, electrical heat pumps, whatever is the new, and how do we connect that to our district energy system? But that's probably after 2025. What's it in Vancouver? What do you?
Very similar. I think very similar. I mean, I'd say number one is the existing buildings, that are not connected to a district energy system, and getting those new district energy systems built across the entire city would probably be our two challenges, and really getting them to be renewable energy, as you've said. Those are hardest nuts to crack, I think. We're really seeing shifts around how people want to get around, and building the infrastructure. As soon as it's built, people use it. So I think the mobility targets, with the advances in electric vehicles and that technology, we're going to see those shifts pretty easy to bring in. But getting those buildings is probably our toughest nut to crack. Having all of the global leaders here, we get to have that 301 conversation rather than the 101 conversation. We spend a lot less time explaining the basics of why we might want to do district energy, for instance, and instead have that cutting edge conversation around how do you get buildings to connect, how do you get them to convert, and so I think one of the most exciting things about this week and having Renewable Cities conference here was the ability to have a vanguard conversation, a leading conversation with vanguard cities. And in terms of what we've gotten out, I think probably the most amazing thing for me is the similarities between so many of our communities that are really pushing the boundaries on what's possible. And you talk about 100% renewable energy city. It seems like, wow, how could we do that? Look at all the ways that we use fossil fuels in our communities. And to know that there are globally leading cities that are right out there on the edge, they're pushing the boundaries and they're finding ways to do it. It just gives you hope that this is possible. We can do this. Cities can make this shift. And so we're learning from other places on how they're converting their buildings, how they're getting people onto alternative forms or friendly forms of transportation. So a lot of lessons for us on really the similarities, and that we can learn a lot from each other.